Hello, just setting up the old iPad. Well, the new iPad. Boy, look at this. Akuma cap is all tangled up, and it's going to be a short one tonight, folks. You gotta go wash the hair on a cold winter's night. Let's see if we can get anybody to come in. I'm going to open up the chat to you guys tonight. Let's do a little Q&A here on the Nancy Guthrie case. But I'm going to wait for a few people to come in. Hello, everybody. If you can hear me, just type something into the chat. Hi, Darlene. How are you? Where are you coming in from? Hey, Boston Bill. Nice to see you. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me. Yeah, I think I've got one person in here from my iPad. Let's see if we can get people in here. I'm doing okay. I know, Bill. Let me just wait for a few people to come in, and then we'll get it started. There's not a whole lot of new information. I have some new information. Now my rabbit and my cat are gonna go crazy. You know, I'm still showing one person. That's crazy. Hey, Kitty, you want to go? Hey, 7 people. Great. Get the little laser toy for the cat. Hard for her to chase that with all the lights on. Okay, 10 people. Great. Okay, well, I just dropped the laser toy. She's decided she's going to chase the bunny. 17 people. Yay! Okay, I'm April Davis, PI. It's February 19th, 2026. 7:50 p.m. Pacific time. I'm going to make this short, but I want to open up a Q&A in the chat regarding the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. A lot of the mainstream media has appeared to have dropped this story today. I never noticed that. Hey, Lee. As a Seattle Mariners Kuma Bear cap. It's cold today. You know, if it's under 60 in LA, it's freezing. And snow on the mountains, so it's very cold here. The mainstream media has kind of dumped this case today. A lot of those usual suspects that are reporting on this, they've moved on to other stories. There's other things happening in the world today, especially in the UK, that is, affects the royal family. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about missing Nancy Guthrie. There is a little good news. The reward fund, another 100 grand has been thrown into it. So we have the original 2,500 plus the 50 grand from the FBI, which was doubled to 100. And now a private donor who wishes to remain anonymous has thrown in another 100 grand. So if I'm doing my math right, and math was my best subject, we're up to 200,000, 200 or $202,500. That's a lot of Benjamins, folks. Is this the one with the ring cam video? The picture on the thumbnail, the guy on the left, is from the Nest Cam video at Nancy's porch at her front door. And the picture on the right is an artist that's from Houston. that's a really famous person that draws like composite drawings of potential criminal suspects. And remember, the guy was wearing a cap, a ski cap. So that is a possibility of what the person could look like. Boston Bill says she's deceased. The body, I believe, won't be found. This case is a mess. You know, Bill, I have to agree with you that the case is a mess. I don't think that Sheriff Nanos will get reelected. That's for sure. I kind of already lost my voice today. I'm drinking a diet ginger beer. I love this stuff. Anybody want to send me another 4-pack? Address is in the main channel page. Excuse me. 27 people. I have 27 people watching right now, and there's only 3 thumbs up. Hit those thumbs ups. Hit those red hearts. Ask me a question. I'm glad that the reward amount has been raised. I think that's very important because there's always somebody who knows something. And, you know, if they can see a monetary gain, it might induce someone to come forward and tell the police or the FBI what they know. I think the number is like 1-800-FBI-CALL. That's 1-800-FBI-CALL. Okay, Fabian says this case is not a mess. Well, it kind of is. But I'm sure there's more things that the police know that we, the public, don't know and the reporters don't know. Eli says who? Nancy Guthrie. How is it not a mess? They dropped the ball. Well, I don't like the way this crime scene was secured, then unsecured, then resecured, then unsecured. I don't like the sheriff making public statements when he should be investigating the case. The first 48 hours are the most imperative, whether it's a kidnapping, an abduction, or a murder. First 48 hours mean everything. And you can't be investigating when you're too busy making television appearances and then, you know, a week later attending basketball games. It doesn't work that way. You have to dedicate every waking moment to the case. And the crime scene must remain secure, especially when it's involving a relative of a famous person and you're going to have a media circus out in front of the house across the street and people traipsing all over the property. And then saying that, you know, certain people, everybody's a suspect, nobody's a suspect, this person's clear, this person's not clear. I just don't even believe any of it at this moment. This live is about the missing Nancy Guthrie. Law enforcement does not know what they're doing. Well, I hope somebody involved in this knows what they're doing. I disagree with the people that are saying it was a botched robbery or botched burglary. Don't believe that at all. You're going to come do a burglary or a robbery. You're going to bring some empty bags with you to put your loot in. You're not going to have a stuffed backpack and gloves that look like they were boxing gloves. You're just not going to do that. If there's nothing in the house and declared not a crime scene, well, there was a lot of things in the house, including blood and signs of forced entry. And more than one person's DNA was gathered. Thumbs up, everybody. I got 5 thumbs up, 11 people watching. What does everybody think? I wouldn't want to have to be walking in that sheriff's shoes right now. I also hope that the family, the immediate family, I hope that they have hired top private investigators on this case. Because it looks like what's happening so far, nobody's getting anywhere. They're waiting for DNA on a glove that may not even have anything to do with the crime scene. Yes, but nothing else, says Fabian. They still haven't said why the people of interest were people of interest. They still haven't said why they were spending weeks at the family's homes or the home of the daughter and the son-in-law. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, nobody's a suspect. You know, everybody's cleared. No, nobody's cleared. Well, except for Carlos, the DoorDash man. I'll tell you right now, that guy's not involved at all. I don't know why they pulled him over. Yeah, I don't think Carlos, the DoorDash man, has anything to do with this. The new crime scene will be where she's found. Yes, but you know what? We're in day number 19. And now they're looking in Mexico. If she's in Mexico, they're never going to find her body. And I hate to say her body because I want to be positive and think that she's still alive, but I don't think she is. And the mainstream media today, they seem to have given up on this case. And that's what's making me kind of sad today, that it looks like the mainstream media has given up. Unless there's some breaking news, they've got to move on and report the other news that's happening in the world. Fabian says, my gut feeling from the jump was Nogales. Could be. It's only about 70 miles away from Tucson. A little more than an hour's drive, if even that. The Port of Nogales, the entry point between southern Arizona and Mexico. But I really don't think like some Mexican drug cartel came in and grabbed some 84-year-old woman. I don't believe that at all. I still believe that this was whatever crime has occurred, whether it be abduction, kidnapping, or murder, it's obviously for money. And it could be somebody targeting her daughter, or it may have nothing to do with her at all. But the fact that she is known, her daughter is so well known and famous and makes a lot of money, you have to look at those possibilities that somebody targeted her for money, whether it be a kidnapping or somebody close to them, to the family, including the family that may have taken her out. But it's just not pointing in any direction right now. And I'm not going to, say that one person is more suspicious than the other, or this person's a suspect, or this person's a person of interest. Like I said many times from the very beginning, if somebody close to her is not the one involved, I'll be happy to wrap my loving arms around the friends and the family. She was targeted for a reason, and we need to know what that reason is. I wonder if somebody really did plan this as a kidnapping and it went terribly wrong. I mean, if these are kidnappers, these are not professional kidnappers like a drug cartel. These are just not professionals at all. You always leave a ransom note at the scene. You don't do this TMZ BS. It's just ridiculous. Now, I do think the two news stations in Tucson, they were notified before TMZ was notified. But all this going back and forth with TMZ is just makes it look not legit. This is not, if this is a kidnapping, it's not a regular kidnapping. But they didn't bring her meds. Why were they in the house for, now the revised timeline is from 41 minutes to 48 minutes. Why were they in the house for 48 minutes if their intent was just to take her? It's like, a kidnapping's got to be like a bank robbery. You got to get in and you got to get out in under 2 minutes. You don't hang around the house for almost an hour. And apparently they left a lot of the lights on. What was that? Hi, Husafel. Nice to see you. Fabian says, wouldn't you think they were left au trace? What are you saying? I don't think they were in there cleaning up because there's blood in the house. They just don't say where. But somebody's blood is in the house. There's some point of forced entry or what appears to be forced entry. And there's all these ransom notes that could all be red herrings, or people that are not related to the actual disappearance that are just trying to get some money. And I think they're idiots because I think, even though I don't understand how cryptocurrency works and Bitcoin works, I think everything in today's world is traceable. I mean, look, they were able to get images off that camera, that Nest door cam, and she didn't even have a subscription. And Google was still able to retrieve pictures. And apparently there's a camera, or cameras plural, that were in the house that were unknown to the suspects. And they're trying to lift video off of those cameras as well. And I think they're going to get something because there's 2 exterior cameras besides the Nest doorbell. And then a neighbor spotted out a camera on the roof. And apparently there may have been a camera or 2 on the inside of the residence. I'm confused on why there was harm on Nancy, who is 84 years old. Maybe she tried to get away and somebody struck her. We don't know. My original thought was that she was dead before they ever left that house. But now, I have to at least consider the possibility that the original intent was maybe really to take her. Now, for what purpose, we don't know yet. Revenge or money. Well, early happy birthday, Matthew. Where are you coming in from, Matt? Everybody, got 20 people here. Can I have a thumbs up? I've got 8 thumbs up. Hit those red hearts. Oh, that's my cat. She's going to shake the table now. Let me put her food down here. Come here. Here's your food. Here. Here we go. Got to hide the wires from the bunny and put the cat food on the floor so she doesn't shake the table. You guys will think we're having an earthquake. I can't wait for that to happen someday. Well, I shouldn't say I can't wait, but that'll probably happen. I'll be on live someday and we'll have the big one or something. Wouldn't that be fun? For you guys, not for me. 17 people watching, 9 thumbs up. Keep going with the thumbs up. Gosh, can we at least make it to like 13? Lucky number 13. Now I got the bunny over here. Everybody wants to be close to me when I go live. I went live earlier to do a whatnot, and everybody was like deciding to go crazy, but then the cat fell asleep. But now everybody's wide awake. How did TMZ get so involved in this case? Because of those stupid ransom notes that may not even be real. And 2 days ago, Harvey Levin said, we're not going to talk about this anymore. We're not going to talk about these ransoms. We're not going to talk about these letters anymore, these emails. And then the very next morning, there he was back on the air going, we just got another ransom note. After he said, we're not going to talk about this anymore. We're not going to give any more notoriety to whoever this is. But, the good news since last night or this morning is that an anonymous donor, has added another $100,000 to the reward money. So if you take the original $2,500, then the $50,000 that the FBI put in and the extra $50,000 they put in, because they doubled their bounty on it, and now an anonymous donor has put in another $100,000. We're up to $202,500. And like I said, that's a lot of Benjamins. If anybody knows anything about this that could solve this case, that could help us locate Nancy, send your information. You might get the reward. It's never too late to do the right thing. There's somebody out there that knows something. If you're watching this, let's give it up. Let's come forward. Let's, be a man. Let's grow a pair and do the right thing. Because, if somebody did this and they hurt this 84-year-old woman, they're going to burn in hell. Can you imagine the trauma that she's gone through? If she's passed, I hope that she passed right away and that she didn't suffer for a long period of time. Lee. Hi, Lee. I feel a small earthquake every 5 to 10 years. It's kind of fun, actually, since nothing gets damaged. Where are you located at, Lee? Are you in Southern California or anywhere on the West Coast or in the Ring of Fire? 9 thumbs up, 10 people watching. We need one more. Keep going. You said Mill. Oh, is that Mill Valley? Oh, Fresno. Fresno, California. Are you guys getting these storms up in Fresno that we've got in Los Angeles? We've had 3 in a row. Visible snow from the San Fernando Valley. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, the bunny. She almost ate my cord. It wouldn't have cut off the show, but it would have cut off my charger. That's about a $40 charger. No, no, no. I think she wants a little, oh, here's her her treat. Let me give her a treat. Get her away from my cords. Rained super hard a couple of days ago. Okay. Yeah, it's been raining here for almost a week. Which I don't mind at all. This is the first time in 25 years that California has not been in a drought. And all the mountains are green right now. It's really a bizarre sight to see. But I bet we'll be in for a really hot summer. Yeah, so the reward has been raised. You know, wouldn't it be nice to have that reward? I'd love to be working on this case, like officially, but you know, I'm in California. I don't have a license to practice in Arizona. You know, I'm too old to run around and do all this, chase down all these clues. But what I'd love to know something, you know, that could help find her and help catch who did this. And we're not going to judge anybody here. We'll let the judge and jury decide what the punishment's going to be. But you know, I think you will be caught. But the sooner you give it up, whoever you are out there, if you're watching this, just do the right thing. Let her be returned to her family, even if the worst has happened. So how many of you that are watching right now think that this was a legit kidnapping for money? And who do you think could have benefited from this? I mean, I know you always rule out the family and the people closest to her, such as friends, neighbors, people that may have worked on the property. But then if it's not them, is it someone connected to Savannah Guthrie? Is it somebody connected to her husband's connection? You know, like, is there a Tommaso Annie connection? How about some of these yahoos that have been questioned? This Luke Daly, who is a known criminal, but that doesn't mean he has anything to do with this. But he was driving the car that was from the dealership, and that guy, what about the Metro Man guy? Like, how is he involved in all this other than the car? I'd like to know more about when that car was bought, when it was sold. What is Zach Jaghoob's connection to the Daily Boys? When they picked up this Kayla Noel Day on the night of the 12th, did she say something to the police that instigated all those search warrants that went on in Marana and that went on in Shadow Hills? Is it just coincidental that she was picked up for outstanding warrants less than 24 hours before all these warrants came down? You know, did she snitch on somebody? You know, just because they're bad people, they've got criminal records and drug issues, doesn't mean they're involved in this case just because they live in Tucson and they live close to Nancy. Who's the guy in the mask? Look at that mask. Who is it? What do people think? Who do people think that is? The masked man. Selena. Oh, welcome, Selena. Welcome back. I'm still side-eyeing the family. Yeah, in my mind, absolutely nobody. Let me take a swig of Diet Root Beer. Nobody is ruled out in this case, no matter what kind of speech the sheriff made publicly. Nobody's ruled out. Nobody's clear. Nobody's been eliminated. And I don't know how closely the sheriff and the FBI are working together. Are they, you know, working jointly, or are they working in opposite corners? And does Savannah Guthrie's family, have they hired private investigators? They certainly have the money. I know that their security has been upped. I know that her husband was seen in an airport over the weekend with the kids, and he was seen coming back to Arizona yesterday without the kids. NBC has upped the security of all their journalists, all their reporters. Will Savannah Guthrie ever be able to return to the Day Show? I don't think she will if this is never solved. because she's going to have to live with this for the rest of her life, that her mother's gone and they don't know where she is and what's happened to her. I don't think there will ever be a normal life for anybody in this family if there's not any closure. That's why I want there to be closure, even if the worst has happened. And if you know anything about this case, if anybody's watching this and they know something, you might be awarded part of that $200,000. Call the tip line, call the FBI, 1-800-FBI-CALL. That's 1-800-FBI-CALL, 1-800-FBI-CALL. Don't waste law enforcement's time if you don't have anything that's important. There's tens of thousands of people calling in 911 every day. The 911, they've had to bring in more operators just to handle all the calls. Lee says, my hunch is that ransom was their plan from the start, and it must have been set up or done by someone who knew who her daughter was, a neighbor, a housemaid, a gardener. It's very possible. They found out yesterday that people were researching Nancy Guthrie's home, and they were researching her address. And some people were also researching Savannah Guthrie's salary. Somebody they think from Tucson was researching that. But people look up celebrities all the time. I have a lot of friends that are in the business, and I had one very close friend who's now passed, but she was a celebrity in Canada. And the both of us would look up stuff on her all the time, and we would just get the biggest laughs because I know quite a few people in show business, and it's so funny to read some of the things that are out there. I even heard Megyn Kelly talking about that, people saying, oh, this is her house, or this is her car, or this is how much she makes, and none of it was true. Usually it isn't, but people do look that stuff up. But on the other hand, if somebody local looked up, well, what's her address and how much does her daughter make, and they could put 2 and 2 together, that would be someone to take a look at. I think that Walmart may be the unsung hero in all of this, because apparently they're going through a lot of data to find out who may have bought the jacket or the backpack and the ski mask. I think that there was the clothing. The jacket might have been a Walmart jacket, but definitely the backpack that had the striping on the front, that was a Walmart backpack. They think the ski mask is a Walmart ski mask. And I don't think there's going to be a whole heck of a lot of people in Tucson buying a ski mask in the middle of the desert. So if you could link that together, and then they're also checking in the gun stores to see who may have purchased that holster. It's just going to take time to put all this information together. They might, Kitty, oh my God, they're going to kill each other while I'm on the air. They may be able to link it and put it all together. Hey, 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 hey. Hold on, everybody. This is Kelsa. Say hi, Kelsa. And she's being a very bad girl right now, trying to kill her sister, my bunny. So I'm going to take her. Say goodbye. Say goodnight, Kelsa. I love her so much. But I'm going to get up and I'm going to put her in the bedroom so she can take a nap. So hold on, everybody. Well, I apologize for that, folks, but here we are. Yeah, hi, David. Where are you coming in from, David? I don't remember your name. Have you been here before? Welcome. Yeah, the backpack, I think, had some type of gear in it to take somebody. If you are a burglar or a robber, you need to bring in bags to carry stuff out. You don't bring in backpacks to carry stuff in. So you also don't stay for approximately 48 minutes. See, that's what's throwing me off here. If this was just a typical kidnapping or somebody targeted her because she was Savannah Guthrie's daughter and they knew Savannah Guthrie could possibly pay a ransom demand, why were they in the house for so long? They seem to know that there was a camera in the front of the house because the guy in the mask comes walking in like this with his head down. But then when he looks up, he seems surprised that there was a Nest doorbell cam. How so if he knew about the cameras on the house? Had he been there before? The police, they have a picture of the guy standing outside the porch, but he's not wearing the backpack. Does that mean that he came and did a trial run on another day, another time, and he had the backpack out in the car, and then he walked up, checked the front porch out, then left, and then came back? None of that makes sense. And he looks like the mask is turned around where the eye holes were not in the front. Now, was that just the lighting or the lack of lighting? But you didn't see the flashy straps on, you didn't see the backpack in one of the pictures. And you don't see the eyes or the mouth. And then in later pictures and video that they showed, you see the eyes and you see the mouth and you see the gloves. And a lot of people are saying they think there was a tattoo on the right arm. I don't know if there is or there isn't, but I think there's a person who's wearing a watch on their right arm. And I have, my own list of suspects, and one of my people that's on the list of suspects, there's a lot of photographs that are online of this person wearing a watch on their right hand. And that's, not something that people do a lot. A lot of left-handed people do that. I'm left-handed, but I wear my watch on my left hand. Now, this is filming in reverse, so it looks like to you that I'm wearing it on my right, but it's on my left. But this person was definitely wearing a watch on their right hand or some type of a bracelet, but I think their watch. And now they're saying on that same hand, there looks like there's a ring. Take it as you want to take it. Lee says, trying to cover the cam with leaves was definitely amateur. Yes, absolutely. Anyone with a brain would at least assume a doorbell cam could be possible and bring something to cover it. Exactly. I'm telling you, this was not some Mexican drug cartel and some, high sophisticated kidnapping to get millions of dollars out of Savannah Guthrie. This may be someone who was targeting her because she is the mother of Savannah Guthrie and they know Savannah makes a lot of money. But this is somebody local. This is somebody young, like probably 20s or 30s. This is somebody male. I think there's more than one person. I think this is a group. And they're just a bunch of knuckleheads, dumbasses. And, they took this lady out of her house without her meds, and she passed quickly. I hope if she's passed, I hope it was quick and painless. Hustafel, was there evidence that he got through the front door, or was it a window or back door? See, we don't know that. We don't know that because the police have only showed the pictures of the guy walking up to the front porch. Now my bunny's going to chew her cardboard house. It's always something. Oh my God, they were so good during my whatnot, and now this. There is an evidence of forced entry, but I don't think it was in the front. It could have been in the back. Whoever was in there, they left the back door wide open, and that was weird too. Apparently the back door was wide open, and there were lots of lights left on in the house. Why would you want to light up the house? That makes no sense. Well, they had to turn the lights on because they were looking for something. She was in bed at night. But when they came to the house the next day, supposedly there were lots of lights turned on. That almost seems to be like somebody who has no fear of being caught. That the lights were turned on and the door was left wide open in the back. Why is that? The blood trail leaves through the front, but it only goes a few feet past the front door. Why does the blood trail suddenly stop? The person that walked up with the mask looked like they were coming from the direction of the driveway. That tells me somebody brought a car. But where was the blood in the house? Was it in her bedroom? Was it near one of the doors? They're not saying. See, these are all things we don't know. And if we knew this, there would be a lot more that we could try to figure out. Us, internet sleuths here. Well, I'm actually a real detective, but I'm not a detective on this case. Yeah, the whole thing, Hussafel, is super strange. We don't know. And I do know that when Tommaso Cioni drove her home that night, the garage door opened at 9:48 p.m. and it closed at 9:50 p.m. She apparently entered the house through her garage. And I would suspect, since she's lived there since 1975 and she's now an older lady, I suspect that the garage door probably has an automatic opener on it. And either she had a clicker with her or there's some kind of code. Sometimes there's like a keypad on the outside of the garage and you can walk up to it and put in a pin and it'll open that way so that you don't have to carry your clicker. So that's how she got in the house. But somebody came up to the front door and then, grabbed. That was the weirdest thing ever, how they grabbed the plants or the dried flowers, whatever it was, and then it crumbled. And they were like, who does that? And those gloves, you wouldn't be able to do anything in the house with gloves on like that. They almost look like boxing gloves. And I'm sure they weren't boxing gloves, but look how thick they look. And now they think that glove they got 2 miles away is the missing glove. They've picked up over 16 gloves. Why would you be the kidnapper or the killer and then take your glove and chuck it out the window as you're driving away from the scene of the crime? Makes no sense whatsoever. So they have DNA on that glove, but they don't have a match for anybody. It probably has nothing to do with this crime. Hussafel says, have to go now. Take care. You too. Have a good night. None of this makes sense. And now they're saying that some of the searchers had dropped their own gloves, that they just discarded them in the desert. Like, don't be a litter bug, people. And now that's going to take all this extra time for the police to have to go through that. And then the guy in LA County in Torrance or Hawthorne who sent in the text copycat ransoms, like, hey, how about that Bitcoin or whatever he said? Now he's going to go to prison. He's going to go to Club Fed for quite a number of years. And that takes the investigation away from where it really needs to be. And, the very next day, the sheriff, he was too busy doing, TV shows and news shows and appearances. And, the first 48 hours are the most important. And for every minute and hour that passes, the chances of ever finding her or finding out who did it get less and less and less. I hope they catch the person and then they make that person crack and find out where the body is. Maybe they can make a deal with that person like, hey, we won't give you the death penalty, you schmuck, if you tell us where she is. But, she could be in another country by now. And here's something that I don't have access to. I mean, we all do. There's all these flight radars and FlightAware. Apparently, you can get a paid membership to those apps, and you can put in a particular airport. And now people are saying that at 4:00 in the morning, there was a flight that left Tucson that went to Mexico. And there was a flight to Mexico, but they're right on the border. But 4:00 in the morning on a Sunday morning, somebody was at the airport flying to Mexico. And they don't mean commercial, they mean private. Well, what's that about? Who was the plane registered to? Who got transported to Mexico from Tucson Airport at 4:00 in the morning? Because Border Patrol, they didn't see anybody coming out over the border, but apparently, and I didn't know this, that a lot of times they don't pull over each car. That they, especially like in Tijuana, usually I think everybody's pulled over, but apparently at some of these border crossings, they just go, and the cars just drive right through. They're just like, yep, come, go, go, go. And so not every car is stopped at the border. I didn't know that. But sometimes they're just like, come on through. She could have been a body in a trunk of a car or tied up and being in a trunk of a car. And they got waved through. Now, if she did leave by plane, then it's somebody that's more sophisticated. But anybody in today's world can go down to the airport if you got the money, and you can hire a private jet. But don't you still have to check through customs if you're going into another country? I would think so, like when you land. What's that about? I think that would be very hard to do, is to take a dead body down to the airport and put them on an aircraft and get them into another country, sight unseen. I just don't know how that would be possible with no passport. Did they take a passport? There's just so many possibilities. Oh, hey, Anthony, you're back. Well, welcome back. Now, we're just doing a little recap here, but there's not a lot to report today on the Nancy Guthrie story. And what's sad about today is that a lot of the mainstream media, they've given up on this case. They've just walked away from this. They've got to report other news by now. I don't know about the YouTubers that are out there. Does anybody know? Are those guys still out in the neighborhood driving around? At some point, that big media circus that's out there, those people are going to have to go home. They've got over 400 extra FBI agents that are in from other offices. They can't all stay out there forever. They don't live there. They work in other offices in other cities, and those guys are eventually going to have to go home to their families. And they've got a lot of manpower on it right now, but they can't do that forever, just for one person. They just won't. Hi, Vicki. Thanks for coming in. Hope you guys that are watching are subscribed. If you're not, hit that subscribe button. Click that bell. You'll be notified anytime I go live or post a video. And please hit the thumbs up and hit those red hearts. It just shows engagement. And I'm not going to make this long tonight. I actually need to go wash my hair. There's a lot that's had to get done the last couple of days. Grocery shopping, got to wash my hair, do laundry tomorrow. The laundry's really far away from my unit, and it's been just pouring down rain. I couldn't even walk there today because there was water that was this deep outside, like 6 inches of water right outside the door. Luckily, I'm on a little bit of a slope, so it didn't come in my door. Yeah, it's just like, it's crazy. It's like a hurricane came through here last night. This is just, the climate has definitely changed over the last 20 years. But yeah, it's really sad that, a lot of the media today just kind of went in another direction, and I understand, the world goes on and there's other stories to report. And I know that, all those FBI agents that have been put out here, even the hostage negotiator team, they're not going to be able to be out here forever. I would hate that, the Guthrie family never to know where she is or what happened or where her remains are. If she is, deceased, let them at least find her, even if the worst has happened. And, if anybody has information and they're watching this video and they don't want to call the sheriff or the FBI, you can always send me an email at aprildavispi@gmail.com. I am a licensed detective. You want to send a letter more than just an email? You need to send a package or something, send it to my business address, and I'll be happy to forward what information you have. And, there is a $200,000+ reward now. So think about that, I wish I knew where she was. I'd love to have that $200,000, I'll split it with you, man. If you help me, I'll help you and you help me. You can be the boots on the ground and I can be the detective here. Let's find her. Let's get this out there. Let's get all these, I've got a whole series of videos on this. Let's get them all shared, get them all liked. when this goes off the air, feel free to place uh, an additional comment in the comment section of the video. At this point today, I'm at a loss. Like, I think about this when I go to bed at night. I think I'm even dreaming about this, but it's so stressful. And I don't even know this woman. I don't know Savannah Guthrie. I know a few people that know Savannah Guthrie, but I don't know Savannah Guthrie. I don't know anything about her other than who she is and what she does for a living. And her whole life, her whole family's life is turned upside down. And think of all the grandkids that this woman has. And, what do you tell the kids? What do you tell them? They don't understand. Some of these kids are probably little kids. They don't understand what's going on. And, they got to go to school and their lives have been disrupted. The other day, Savannah's kids were seen on a plane to Florida with her husband. Now her husband, he's flown back, but he was alone. He wasn't with the kids. So, were they dropped off at another family member's house? I don't know. What about their schoolwork? Her brother Cameron, who lives in Vermont, who's a retired. Apparently, he's still in the military, but he's no longer an F-16 pilot. He's got kids. He's got a couple of girls. Savannah's got a son and a daughter. If I'm not mistaken, I think Tommaso and Annie might have one child. So, if they do, there's at least 5 grandkids. This is hard. I mean, since this broke, they haven't even been able to be home and sleep in their own beds. And they're having to hide out and have extra security everywhere they go. And, they can't just walk out the door and, go to a restaurant or go to a grocery store. Like, someone's having to bring them food. And, I don't even know how much stuff they packed in their bags. They just had to hurry up and get out to the West Coast quickly. And then Tommaso and Annie, they can't even stay in their house with all this police activity. They don't even have a car. Their car's been towed by the FBI. Like, and is he able to go to school and teach? Probably not. Is he on leave? Is he on a paid leave? Who's paying their bills while this is going on? I think Savannah and her husband, Michael, they could survive a long time without any income coming in. But, you know, she's probably still getting paid because she's under contract. But, this has probably never happened before in the history of the Today Show where one of the co-hosts has to take an indefinite leave because of a family emergency. How much emergency pay does she have? I mean, I'm sure she could retire tomorrow and, still live comfortably the rest of her life. But there's just so much disruption to everybody's lives and so much terror not knowing what's happened to their mom. That would be a terrible feeling. I mean, everybody think about it. Like what would you do if it was your mom or dad and they just vanished and never to be seen or heard from again? Like, how would you handle all that? What would you do? It's like the families of the victims on MH370 to this day. It's going to be 12 years this March, and they still don't know where their loved ones are. Their lives are destroyed, decimated. Like, people will never get over this. This is going to bring so much harm to so many people. I just want this to be resolved. I want the suspects to be found. I want them to be sent to trial. I want somebody to be found guilty for this. And I want the family to be able to have closure, whether she's out there or she's, passed away. I personally think that she passed away. And I think she passed away probably right away. Heck, she might have even have been killed in her house. Something happened to her because she was bleeding. It's so sad. And, she was probably with her heart and her pacemaker, she's probably on a blood thinner. And, just the teeniest little wound, you can bleed to death. I had a minor surgery. I had a cyst that was the size of a pinhead that I couldn't even see. I could feel it, but I couldn't see it. And it was on my upper leg. And the doctor didn't cauterize it right when they removed it. And the next morning they were like, you have to go to the emergency room or urgent care immediately because that has to be closed. That has to be cauterized or you're going to bleed to death from a little teeny pin drop, like a hole the size of a pinhead. And I could have bled to death. I don't know how I slept at night because it wouldn't stop bleeding. And she's 84 years old and she's got a pacemaker. She could bleed out like really, really quick. And if she didn't have her meds, she could be gone in under 24 hours at her age with a pacemaker. She probably had blood pressure meds, heart arrhythmia meds, blood thinners. I'm familiar with this shit, sadly. Excuse my language, but I'm familiar with this shit because of what happened to me with cancer and all the side effects of chemo and red devil chemo. Like, it's a shit show, people. And I'm young enough to be that woman's daughter. So can you imagine she's not very mobile. I'm not very mobile either, but she's probably worse off than I am at her age. Did they say, oh, hold on, let me grab your cane and let me grab a walker and let's push you out in a wheelchair? And no, they just, somebody just probably threw her over their shoulders and they drug her out. That's probably why that backpack was full. They probably had a tarp or a bag or a blanket, but it wasn't secured all the way and she dripped. And then they secured it somehow because then the blood just stopped. Well, how did the blood just stop? Even the dogs, the canines that were sent from Border Patrol, they didn't get a hit. It was just like the hit was right at the front door, and that was it. Maybe they need to bring out the cadaver dogs to Tucson. But where do you start? Where do you start? Is she in a lake? Is she in a river? Is she in a barn or a shed or the trunk of somebody's abandoned car? Is she buried? Was her body exposed where wildlife could have just drug her off? And it's a horrible thought not knowing where she is. And I just feel so horrible for her. And I feel so horrible for the family. And, she had such a wonderful life. And I'm glad she did have a wonderful life. But it just seems like such a waste for her to, that this is going to be the end of her, is something like this. It's not fair. She just didn't have any of this coming to her at all. She's just a complete victim in all of this. I don't think she did anything that put her life at risk. It's awful. Yeah, Vicky says I would lose my mind. Yeah, me too. And my parents are long gone, but not ever knowing. Like they just disappear one day and you don't know. Like that's an awful feeling. I can't imagine. I've had to deal with some deaths of people close to me in the last couple of years, and I know what happened to those people, and it's been terrible. Can you imagine if like they were gone, but I didn't know where they were, and they just disappeared? They just vanished in the middle of the night. Like it's just something that I don't think the family's ever going to get over. Even if they find her and she's alive, they'll never get over this trauma. She'll never get over this trauma, but I've got this feeling from the very beginning that she's gone. And I don't want to be right. I would love to come on here and say, I'm wrong, everybody. I was totally wrong. And they kidnapped her and it was totally legit. And they were holding her for ransom. But if they were, they would have shown proof of life. And they have not been able to do that. And that's because she's, probably no longer with us. If it was an actual kidnapping, and not just an abduction because somebody needs her assets. I hope they catch whoever did this, and I'm praying for the FBI. I'm praying for Pima County Sheriff, even though I don't like that sheriff at all. I think he's done a terrible job. But I'm not going to judge. Justice Jane says, hello, everyone. Hello to you, Justice Jane. Arizona Desert Walker. I have my suggestion on off for YouTube, and I think this is the second time you came on my timeline. Did you do a map over of Luke the other day? I have mentioned Luke. I didn't do a map. Yeah, I'm just on a live stream. I don't have like OBS where I can show videos and do overlays and all that. So no, I didn't show a map. But thanks for coming in, Arizona Desert Walker. With his eyes. No, I've seen that though. I've seen somebody did a layover with his eyes. I have a couple of thoughts on who that could be, the masked man. I don't know. I have a couple of ideas, but I do think more than one person is involved. But we need to really know, like, was this just a kidnapping for money, a kidnapping for revenge, a homicide? It just didn't look like a typical kidnapping. And the police, usually on a missing person, they don't bring in a homicide unit, but they did that immediately. They did that day because there was an indication that somebody may have already died. That's a very highly unusual law enforcement move. It's just a Seattle Kuma Bear cap, Seattle Mariners cap from a Japanese pitcher who's no longer a pitcher with the MLB. And I'm going to be taking this hat off very soon because I got to go wash my hair tonight. I don't like dirty hair. I have to stay clean, even in my old age. Gotta have clean clothes and clean hair. Yes, he is terrible at public relations, and I don't think he's going to be the sheriff much longer. I don't know how long he's been elected for. There's a lot of problems I hear within that department, and he seems to like the spotlight. You do one press conference and that's it, but you got to be busy working the case. And then you don't take a weekend off to go to a basketball game. Just saying. That's what they're saying. I wasn't there, but plenty of people saw it. I'm sure many people have filed formal complaints. Maybe. Yeah. Let's just hope that she's found because, the mainstream media, they backed away from this case today. And eventually all those reporters and YouTubers and cameramen and women that are out in front of that house, they're all going to have to go home. And the 400 extra agents that have been brought in, they can't stay forever. They have to have some more leads. They can't just sit there twiddling their thumbs with their thumbs up their butt. Like there's so much information to process right now, but eventually all these leads are going to start to dry up, and the phone calls and the tips are going to be less and less, and the case is going cold. You don't see it stopping. Well, I hope you're right, Arizona Desert Walker. I don't know if any formal complaints have been filed. I'm not with the sheriff's department. Well, everybody, we're almost at an hour now. Time for me to go wash this, whatever's left of me. This hair. After chemo, my hair has just never been the same. But I hope they find her. I'm gonna say another prayer tonight for her and for her family. And God, I can't even imagine how exhausted everybody is through this. It just must be sucking the life out of them. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for the red hearts. Make sure that you're subscribed to me and that you have that bell icon clicked so you'll be notified anytime that I go live. And once again, if you want to send me an email about this or send anything, to the business address, feel free. Remember, the award has been doubled now. It's up to over $200,000. So there's a lot of Benjamins at stake here for somebody. If somebody will just come forward and, if someone can just be the one that gives the right tip to the police that helps them find who's responsible and helps them recover Nancy. Arizona Desert says, do I use castor oil or red onion? No, but that's how I made it grow again. Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, it grew back really quick, but it just grew back all crazy. It keeps changing, you know. you go through something like what I've been through, and you're just not the same person ever again. But I'm still here, and I appreciate having all you guys and my YouTube family. I hope you guys stay safe wherever you are tonight. And let's say a prayer for Nancy Guthrie. Let's pray for her safe return. I hope this case is solved very, very soon. Thank you again for coming.